We will study about respiration under the life activities. Okay, so what is respiration? Dear students, the process of breakdown of the food absorbed during the process of nutrition or digestion to give out energy for various life processes is known as respiration. Okay, so we know just to sustain life, to remain alive, all the organisms, whether unicellular or multicellular, they require food. Why? To get energy for all the essential life processes, and the energy that is liberated from this food, it is known as respiration. Okay, now this energy can be liberated in two types. Okay, number one, when the organisms they are giving, or the food is giving out energy without the involvement of oxygen. Okay, as in the case of lower organisms, we see that they don't require oxygen to liberate or to give out energy to the cell, and this type of respiration, dear students, it is known as anaerobic respiration. What is that? It is anaerobic respiration. What is? When the breakdown of the food takes place in the absence of oxygen, it is known as anaerobic respiration. Okay, now what happens, dear students? In this anaerobic respiration, there is an incomplete oxidation of the food. Okay, means the carbohydrates, that is glucose, just suppose if it will break down, that then it is not going to give out carbon dioxide and water, but instead it will give out ethyl alcohol, that is C2H5OH, and along with that carbon dioxide and energy. Okay, so giving out of the energy by organisms in the absence of oxygen, it is known as anaerobic respiration. Now, in the case of higher organisms, when oxygen is required, or when the breakdown of the glucose or the food material, it takes place in the presence of oxygen, then it is known as aerobic respiration. Okay, now dear students, this, as you know also, that this aerobic respiration, it takes place in mitochondria. You know that what is the powerhouse of the cell? We know that mitochondria, they are known as the powerhouse of the cell, and against that anaerobic respiration, where there was an incomplete breakdown of the food, there is a complete breakdown of the food, means that glucose in the presence of oxygen is totally oxidized, and it gives out carbon dioxide and water with liberation of huge amount of energy, in contrast to anaerobic respiration. Okay, so in simple words, the breakdown of the food in the presence of oxygen, it is known as aerobic respiration. Okay, now how this process is accomplished? So dear students, what happens that the glucose, okay, we have already learned in the digestion that the food digested is assimilated, it goes to the various cells. Okay, now what happens there? Now, the food, it may undergo three consequences, but the basic thing in all the organisms is that the first step is that the glucose molecule, it is a 6 carbon compound. Okay, C6, S12O6. Glucose is a 6 carbon compound. It is a molecule of glucose. We say that this 6 carbon compound glucose, it breaks down into 2 molecules of pyruvate or pyruvic acid. Okay, so what is the fundamental step? The glucose inside the cell, in the cytoplasm of the cell, it breaks down into 2 molecules of pyruvate. Okay, it takes place in the cytoplasm, as I just mentioned you. And what happens there, student, that we can summarize that this breakdown of glucose into pyruvate, and this is known as glycolysis. Okay, Now, this breakdown of glucose into pyruvate inside the cell, in the cytoplasm of the cell, it does not require presence or absence of oxygen. Okay? Now, so the first basic fundamental step, as I mentioned you, is the breakdown of glucose into pyruvate. Okay? Now, what happens next? This pyruvate undergoes three processes. It may undergo three processes that, just a minute. Dear students, the pyruvate formed inside the cytoplasm has three consequences. Okay? Now, number one, in the absence of oxygen, means under anaerobic conditions, this pyruvate break down into ethanol and carbon dioxide and liberates energy. Okay, so the first phase may be that the pyruvate formed inside the cytoplasm, and in the absence of oxygen, it further breaks down into ethanol and carbon dioxide. Okay, this is the glucose. So what will how we can define this anaerobic respiration? Simply that the breakdown of this glucose molecule into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide, and the first step, as I mentioned you, that is the formation of pyruvate molecule, and the first consequence of this pyruvate molecule is that it under anaerobic conditions may form this ethanol and pyruvate acid. Okay. Now, the second consequence of this pyruvate is that, as you might have seen your parents might have complained about the muscular cramps. So what are those muscular cramps? Dear students, what happens when our muscle cells, okay, when they require extra amount of energy, so what happens there? That in the deficiency of oxygen in the muscle cells, what happens to liberate out, to give out energy? This pyruvate undergoes and changes into lactic acid. Okay, so this lactic acid, the second phase of the second consequence of this pyruvate is that under the deficiency of oxygen, this pyruvic acid or pyruvate, it may changes into lactic acid with the liberation of energy. Okay, so what we studied so far, we learned that pyruvate may change into ethyl alcohol. In the deficiency of oxygen, this pyruvate may, dear students, may change into lactic acid. Okay. Now, what happens next? Now, under aerobic conditions, what is the third consequence of this? That under aerobic conditions, what happens, dear student? This pyruvate may change into carbon dioxide and water with the liberation of energy. Okay, so the third consequence of pyruvate under aerobic conditions. Aerobic condition means in the presence of oxygen in the cell, and where in the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, this pyruvate may change into carbon dioxide and water with the liberation of energy. Okay, now what is this energy? We are always talking about energy. So what, dear students, what is this energy? That all the cells, as I have told you previously also, that all the cells, they require energy in a homogeneous form, and that is the ATP. What is the meaning of ATP? A for adenosine, T means tri means three molecules of phosphate. So ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is the source of energy, and this ATP is formed during the process of respiration. Depending over the situation, to sustain metabolic activities, all the cells, they require energy, and this is known as ATP. Okay, so how this ATP is formed? In brief, I will just tell you that ADP means adenosine di means 2. So adenosine diphosphate, it takes one inorganic phosphate molecule and it converted into ATP, which is the energy currency of all the organisms. Okay. Now, dear student, all the metabolic processes, that is, you can say that the entropic conditions. Students, as I just mentioned, that this ATP is involved or required for all the metabolic activities inside the cell. And now you will be amazed to learn that near about 30.5 kilojoules of energy. How much? A single molecule of ATP may liberate 30.5 kilojoules of the energy per ATP molecule. Okay? Now, dear student, one thing is there that how we will say that carbon dioxide is released during the process of respiration. Okay? So, very simply, we can prove that carbon dioxide is released. Dear students, what we can do? Simply just take one test tube and have some lime water and fresh lime water in that, and just take a straw and prove out that carbon dioxide is liberated. We can do a very simple experiment. Dear students, take a test tube. Okay, now have some freshly prepared lime water in that, and now take out a straw or a syringe and just fill out it with the okay. Now breathe out the gas from your mouth, and what we will see that after few breath outs, this lime water it changes its color and turns to milky. Is dear students, that these terrestrial organisms, they have got one advantage over the aquatic organisms. What's there? That the percentage or the amount of oxygen in air is much more as compared to the amount of oxygen in water. Okay, so that's why these terrestrial organisms, they have got a comparative advantage over the aquatic organisms. Okay, so you might have seen that a fish respires much more fast as compared to these terrestrial organisms. Okay, now what we will learn next is that the way of getting oxygen, that how oxygen is absorbed or comes inside the living world. So depending over plants, that you have already learned in photosynthesis, then what happens there, student? For the aerobic respiration, in the case of the higher plants and higher organisms, there are a number of ways depending over the habits and habitats of the organisms. Okay, so dear student, in the case of the plants, what's there? We see that the leaves, they are having the minute pore-like structure known as stomata, and through these stomata, by the process of diffusion, okay, the process of diffusion, that the carbon dioxide, depending over the requirement of the plant, whether it is undergoing the photosynthesis or undergoing the respiration, so they meet out this requirement, they fulfill their requirement through the simple process of diffusion through the stomata. Dear students, in the case of the unicellular organisms, just suppose aquatic organisms like amoeba, again these gaseous exchange takes place by merely the process of diffusion. Okay, now in the case of animals, or particularly you can say the higher organisms or higher animals, they have evolved various organs. They have got various organs like gills, nostrils, and a number of other things to meet out their oxygen requirement. Now, dear students, we will learn that how the requirement or the demand of oxygen is fulfilled inside the human beings. Okay? Now, dear students, under the respiratory system of human beings, we have got a very advanced respiratory system or respiratory system. Okay, it consists of nostril, pharynx, larynx, trachea and lungs. Okay, so you might have heard that basically you very well know that we are having a cartilaginous trachea and we are having a pair of lungs, that is the left lung and the right lung. Okay, so now in the case of human beings, the respiratory system that it starts from the nostril. Okay, so there is a left and right nostril, and you might have felt that it is just a bit watery or it is moist. Okay, so why it is moist and having the hairy structure, hairs. Okay, so why it is moist? It is moist just to keep out the large macroparticles, not to reach inside the trachea or in this respiratory passage. Okay. Then we are having a pharynx. Okay, I will show you it with the help of this diagram. Now just look at this diagram and see what's there. That's, as I mentioned you, that in the case of human beings, dear students, this respiratory system, it consists of nasal cavity. Okay, next is the pharynx, our voice box, larynx. Now this is a cartilaginous structure that is known as trachea. This trachea, dear students, is bifurcated into left and right part into two bronchi. Okay, so this is the bifurcation of that is known as bronchi, and these bronchi, okay, as I will draw here, they are further divided into bronchioles. Okay, so these bronchioles, they are again having the balloon-like cavity known as alveoli. Okay, so what are the respiratory parts of the human beings? So we learned that human beings, this respiratory system, it starts from nasal cavity, having the pharynx, larynx, here this cartilaginous trachea or windpipe which we call, and later on we see there are one pair of lungs, left lung and right lung, having the branching known as bronchi, bronchioles, and air-filled sacs or cavities known as alveoli. Okay, now as I mentioned the pathway of this, so now we will learn what happened there. Okay, now as I told you that the air from the nostril, it reaches to trachea. Okay, now this is the breathing or the flow of the oxygen, that the oxygen, or we simply say that the air rich in oxygen through nostril, it reaches to trachea, trachea to bronchi, bronchi to bronchiole, and there it reaches to alveoli. Okay. Dear students, this alveoli, now pay attention, this alveoli, it is having a profuse, you can say vessel or blood vessels, it is having a rich supply of the blood. Okay, now dear students, the blood, it plays a very prominent, very important role in the transportation of oxygen. Now what happens? Now I will just tell you in very brief that what happened, dear student, that this red blood cells, okay, particularly the RBC, okay, RBC means red blood cells in the blood, they are having hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, hemo means iron. It is an iron containing component or compound found in the red blood cells of the human beings. Okay, so we can say that hemoglobin, the iron component or compound inside the RBC, what it did, this RBC or this hemoglobin, it combines with the oxygen which we have breathed in through our nostril, trachea, and it has reached to alveoli. So this hemoglobin, it combines with oxygen. That oxygen which has come through our nostril, when it combines with hemoglobin, it forms oxyhemoglobin. Okay, what we call it, it is oxyhemoglobin. And now this oxyhemoglobin, it reaches to different parts of the body and it reaches to cell where for aerobic respiration it is utilized. Okay, now what happens during, as I mentioned you, during the process of respiration, carbon dioxide is formed. This carbon dioxide through the blood, it again, there are 2 or 3 pathways that this carbon dioxide is eliminated or is expelled out from the body. The number one is that, dear student, this carbon dioxide, as in the case of hemoglobin, it combines with hemoglobin and forms carboxyhemoglobin. Okay, so number one thing is formation of carboxyhemoglobin. Okay, now As I had told you previously also, that this carbon dioxide is having more affinity to dissolve as compared to oxygen. So it is easily dissolved in the blood and in the form of carbonic acid, and from the various organs it is brought to the heart through the veins, and later on it goes to the lungs, and from there it is expelled out, breathed out. Okay, so this was the mechanism of the, we have seen what we have learned today about the breathing or flow of the gases. Now, so in this way we have learned a number of things. Now, well, how much you have grabbed? So I am going to take a test of that. Okay, now rethink about that. We learned that respiration is the breakdown of food for liberation of energy. Two things, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Okay, and we have learned about the diffusion, about the dissolving capacity of this oxygen in water and in air. Okay, and we have learned. Now I am going to ask you some questions. Now just tell me. The first question is, now understand it. What the anaerobic respiration takes place in? My first question is, the anaerobic respiration takes place in. Now pay attention. In presence of carbon dioxide. B, in presence of oxygen. C, in absence of oxygen. Or D, in absence of carbon dioxide. So, what is the question? The anaerobic respiration takes place in presence of carbon dioxide. No, carbon dioxide has no role. But it is, you can say it is generated during the process. It is a production. It is a product of that respiration. So, our first answer is not the answer. Now, in presence of oxygen. So, dear students, we have learned that oxygen is required in aerobic respiration and not in anaerobic respiration. So, again, you can say B is not the right answer. Now, C, in absence of oxygen, it is or it is not. You have to tell me. Now, last option was in the absence of carbon dioxide. So, again, absence of carbon dioxide is not a part of this. Okay. Now, our next question is the breakdown of glucose. We have learned that glucose is firstly converted into pyruvate, 2 molecules of pyruvate. Now, the question is the breakdown of glucose to pyruvate takes place where? Where I have told you whether this process takes place in mitochondria, cytoplasm, cell membrane or nucleus. Mitochondria? No. Cytoplasm? Yes. So irrespective of the presence or of absence of oxygen, dear student, you will choose that cytoplasm is the right answer because the breakdown of glucose, it takes place to pyruvate in the cytoplasm. Okay, now the next question is the energy currency of cell. So what is the energy currency of the cell? You know it very well. I need not to ask you. Okay, so in this way you can tell me the answers of these questions. Okay, now again I am going to ask a few questions, a few more questions. Now, my next question is, respiration is a anabolic pathway, catabolic pathway, autotrophic pathway, none. Now, you have to answer it, you have to think about that. Now, again, just suppose I ask you, pyruvate is a 6 carbon compound, 4 carbon compound, 3 carbon compound or 2 carbon compound, you will have to tell me. Now, just suppose if I ask you, instead of this pyruvate, that glucose. Glucose is a 6 carbon compound or 3 carbon compound. So, obviously, yes, you know it. Very good. Now, my next question, dear students, is in aerobic respiration. Now, pay attention. Now, here I am asking about aerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, glucose breaks down into. In aerobic respiration. Now pay attention. Ethyl alcohol and CO2. Second option is carbon dioxide and oxygen. Carbon dioxide and oxygen. Next is carbon dioxide and water. And the last one is H2O, CO2 and energy. Now you will have to tell me, okay? Now just think, you know it, I have already explained it to you. So I think in this way we can enjoy a number of questions and gradually I will ask you, okay? Now my next question, dear friends, is I just told you the balloon-like structure, okay? The balloon-like structure inside the lungs responsible for gaseous exchange, bronchi, alveoli, trachea or bronchiole. Now pay attention and give me the right answer, okay? Now my next question is, under deficiency of oxygen in muscles, I have told you about the cramps. You might have felt that your parents might have complained about the cramp. So under deficiency of oxygen in muscles, the pyruvic acid breaks into methanol, ethanol, lactic acid or glucose. Think it. Yes, it is the right answer. Now, in plants, diffusion of gases takes place through mitochondria, chloroplast, leaf or stomata. You have to give me the right answer. Okay. So just think about that and give me the right answer. Now, my next question in the subjective part may be that what are the differences between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration? Dear students, you just write down, make two segments, write here aerobic respiration and here anaerobic respiration. Very simply, what we have learned, that aerobic respiration, dear students, what? In the absence of oxygen, that is anaerobic respiration. On aerobic respiration which takes place in the presence of oxygen, that is aerobic respiration. Okay. Second, you can say that there is no involvement of oxygen while oxygen is involved. Okay. Mitochondria is not involved, mitochondria is involved. In this way, you can write down 3 or 4 points. Again, you can say or you can tell about the amount of ATP released. Okay, so you can consider all these things here. Now, my next question is, what are the ways in which glucose is oxidized to provide energy in various organisms? What? Glucose is oxidized to provide energy in various organisms. So I have mentioned you 3 things. Okay. Number 1, glucose is broken down to pyruvate in the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm may undergo, it may changes into ethanol or it may changes into pyruvic acid, pyruvate, or it may changes into lactic acid and it may changes into carbon dioxide, water with the release of energy. Now, the next question is how oxygen and carbon dioxide transported in human beings. I have already mentioned you. Rethink about that and answer. Now, our last question may be advantage of terrestrial organisms over an aquatic organism. So, I have already told you that the amount of oxygen is much more in air as compared to water. That's why the aquatic organisms, they have to compensate about by having more respiratory rate. Thank you very much.